Hey guys, what is up? My name is Maya and welcome back to my crib. Today I want to talk about something that I don't see too many sort of tutorials on, like in a quick way, and that is buses, aux tracks, and sends in Logic. So I actually made this video for a knowledge-based type of thing for Berkeley, but I thought I would kind of like recreate it for my YouTube channel because I think it's like a super helpful thing for you guys to know. So I don't have too much of a intro for this video, but my EP is coming out on June 25th, so I just thought I'll let you know. My Instagram and stuff is in the description, so you can check out my updates on that, and I will see you guys in the video now. So I think this is like one of the most complicated and hard to understand aspects of mixing or using a DAW in general, and honestly, like, another thing that's really annoying is that it's different in every DAW, so like it gets a little bit complicated. But in Logic, I think it's actually like a super simple process, and it's why I prefer to mix in Logic over like my other main DAW, which is Ableton, because there's a lot of cool routing stuff that we can do. So I wanted to talk about two techniques today, one of them being submixes, and one of them being sending effects to multiple tracks at a time. I know a lot of times people will put a reverb plugin on every single track that they have, right? So they might have 3 vocal tracks, and they copy paste sort of the same reverb plugin on all 3. What's cool about buses is what we can do is we can save CPU by making one reverb plugin live on an aux track and sending the reverb to multiple tracks at a time. So it's saving CPU, but it's also allowing you to have like a more cohesive mix. Because what you can do is send it all out from one plugin and have the same reverb affecting all these 3 tracks, or however many tracks you have. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm basically just showing you guys how I have this session set up right now. So I have 2 vocal tracks, and they actually have the same vocal, but we're not gonna listen to it, so it's fine. And you can see I have my mixer set up right here. With these 2 tracks. So basically when you check this out, you have this area right here on the mixer that says sends. Right now all we have is the master and the 2 vocal tracks. So these have no output right now because I was playing around with it earlier, so I'm going to make the output the stereo output, which is going to be your default when you first open Logic. And now I've got the stereo out track. So what I'm going to start by doing is basically, let's say I want to take a reverb plugin and I want to send it to these 2 tracks, the same exact reverb settings and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by selecting both of these tracks, and now anything I do is going to affect both of them. So I'm going to start by sending this to a bus. So let's do bus 1 because that's pretty easy. Now I've got this aux track, which is yellow right here, and it has this little knob icon if you have the track icons turned on. And you can see that automatically Logic put bus 1 as the input for this channel, or this, channel or track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a reverb plugin on here. So I like Chroma Verb, and we want to make sure this is set to 100% wet, because since this is a send, we don't want to hear any of the original track. We're going to hear it on the other tracks. This track is just going to monitor, and we're just going to hear this track. We're going to see in the meter that this track is holding the reverb, and the vocal tracks, all we're hearing from them is the actual vocal. So what I'm going to do is, using this little knob that's next to the send, I can turn this up a little bit. And now when I play it back, we can see that the reverb is actually being metered right here. This is a weird backing vocal from one of my songs, so there's no S's on it. But you can see, that's the reverb. So we can actually solo this, and all we're going to hear is the reverb. We're not going to hear the actual dry signal. So it's kind of cool, right? So this is like a super cool way. When I edit this Chroma Verb plugin right here, the amount of the settings are going to stay the same on both tracks. So it's going to send it right to both tracks. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about, which is sending effects. So you can also do some cool stuff with this, because you can then compress that reverb, or anything that's in this chain is going to affect like the original thing. So like the Chroma Verb, if I throw a compressor or a gate in front of it or after it on the chain, I can then compress that reverb separately. Because on a vocal track, if I put a compressor, it's going to compress the reverb, but it's also going to compress the vocal, or whatever audio track that is, right? So this is cool because now if I'm adding a compressor on the reverb, I'm actually only compressing the reverb, or I'm only gating the reverb, or saturating the reverb, or whatever we want to do. But let's talk about the other thing that we can do. There's tons of things we can do with it, but the other like main thing is called making submixes in a mix. So basically, a lot of people use this technique at the end of mixing to do what they call glue compression, which basically is taking a bunch of individual tracks, in this case for me it's vocals, and kind of affecting them all together in a submix to make them sort of glue together in a more cohesive way. So I'm just gonna clear what I have right now, and I'm gonna clear this, and I'm actually gonna delete this aux track right now because we actually are gonna make a new one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by, instead of adding a send in these little send slots, I'm actually gonna route my output to a send of these two vocal tracks. So let me do that. And the output is going to be a bus, so it's going to be bus 1. Still, Logic's going to make me an aux track for that, but this time it's a little bit different. So now what this is doing is my vocal track output, instead of going to the stereo out, it's actually going through the aux track before it hits the stereo out. So what I can do is I can add an EQ to this, and I can EQ them all together, right? So then I can compress them all together. And basically, what that's allowing me to do is affect them all at once so that it kind of sounds more like one vocal, what's the word I'm looking for? Element instead of two vocal elements. So it's kind of gluing it together and it makes it more cohesive as a mix. So a lot of people do this with all of their sort of groups of types of tracks. So maybe you have 3 guitars. You might put them all into a submix and then compress them all together, or EQ them all together, or even put a reverb on them all together. So it kind of adds that cohesiveness and that way to mix. And then you also have one fader, which is your aux fader, to adjust all of the guitars at once, right? So it's super cool, and yeah, that's basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That was a quickie, but I hope you like it, and I'll see you guys next time.